Immersive Fusion.
Get ready. We're going deep on Immersive APM today. And wow, this is not your typical application monitoring.
Yeah, it's really different.
We're talking about like stepping inside your code,
Uh-huh.
visualizing its performance in 3D,
Right.
actually like experiencing how your software behaves. Wild.
It is pretty wild. It's a whole new way of thinking about observability, you know?
Yeah.
Instead of staring at dashboards all day,
Oh, yeah?
we're moving towards something more intuitive,
Okay.
more engaging.
Right.
I'd even say like a fun way to understand applications.
Fun. Okay, I'm intrigued. You sent over some super interesting material on all this. I have to admit, I'm pretty excited to unpack it.
Yeah.
So we've got Aspire, OpenTelemetry, and this Immersive APM platform. All pieces of the puzzle, but how do they like all fit together?
Okay, so think of it this way. You want to build a house, right? Aspire's like your foundation and framing. It's this opinionated, cloud-ready framework. Provides the structure for creating these robust .NET applications that are observable, like from the very beginning.
Inherently observable. So it's not something you tack on at the end. You're building in the monitoring from the start.
Exactly, yeah. And that's where OpenTelemetry comes in. It's like the electrical wiring of your house already built in, ready to transmit like this really crucial data. So Aspire comes pre-configured with these OpenTelemetry packages, which are basically just these tools for collecting telemetry data, the traces, the metrics, the logs, all the stuff that tells you how your application is performing.
Okay, so I'm seeing the layers here. Aspire builds the foundation. OpenTelemetry is gathering all that data. But why is OpenTelemetry so important to this whole Immersive APM thing?
It's the bridge, right, between your application and that visualization magic of Immersive APM. OpenTelemetry is collecting all the vital signs of your application and then feeding that data into Immersive APM, which uses it to construct these mind-blowing 3D and VR environments. Hold on. Did you say VR? As in, I can put on a headset and actually see my application running?
Yep, you got it. Imagine like putting on a VR headset, suddenly you're in this virtual world. All the components of your application, servers, databases, caches, they're all laid out in front of you. And you can actually see data flowing between them in real time, represented by like lines of light or even 3D objects moving through this space.
Okay. That is next level. But before we get lost in the metaverse here,
Yeah.
let's step back.
Yeah.
Make sure I understand what Immersive APM actually is.
Right. So Immersive APM is this revolutionary platform.
Okay.
It was developed by Immersive Fusion.
Okay.
And it takes all that telemetry data collected by OpenTelemetry.
Right.
And transforms it into this 3D interactive visualization of your application.
Okay.
Think of it like a 3D map of your software world. You can see how everything's connected, how data flows between the different components.
So it's more than just a pretty picture.
Oh, yeah.
It's about understanding those relationships, the interactions within my application. Absolutely. And that understanding leads to like way faster problem solving.
Okay.
Picture this. You see a cluster of red blocks in your virtual world. That's Immersive APM's visual language for errors.
Oh, that's interesting.
You can instantly zoom in, see exactly which component is causing the issue. You might even get like detailed error messages and code snippets. It's like having X-ray vision for your software.
So instead of digging through logs and metrics, I can literally see problems happening as they happen. Sign me up.
That's just scratching the surface. We'll dive deeper into the features and benefits later. But first, let's go back to why Aspire comes pre-packaged with OpenTelemetry.
Right, back to the foundation of this whole immersive observability thing. Why is Aspire so focused on OpenTelemetry from the get-go?
It's all about making observability a core part of the development process, right? By including those OpenTelemetry packages, Aspire ensures that developers have the tools they need to instrument their applications for monitoring right from the start. No need to add it in later or rely on like proprietary monitoring solutions.
So OpenTelemetry is like the universal language of observability then?
You could say that, yeah. It's an open standard, which means it's not tied to any specific vendor, so your application isn't locked into a particular monitoring tool or platform.
Right.
And because Aspire embraces OpenTelemetry, it sets you up to take advantage of these powerful tools like Immersive APM.
Okay, now it's clicking. I build my application with Aspire, which already has OpenTelemetry built in, and then Immersive APM takes all that data and turns it into this incredible 3D world I can explore.
Precisely. It's a seamless flow from development to deployment to observability, all powered by open standards and, that commitment to making software easier to understand.
All right, I'm officially hooked. Let's dive into that world of Immersive APM. Walk me through what it's like to actually step inside my application.
Okay, so let's journey into the heart of your application here. Imagine you slip on that VR headset and all of a sudden you're standing in this like vast three-dimensional space. But it's not empty space. It's populated with these glowing representations of all your application's components.
So I might see like a little server farm humming away, or
Mm.
maybe my database is like a giant spinning data vortex or something.
Yeah, that's the idea. Each component's represented visually. You can actually see how they're connected. But the real magic is like seeing those connections come alive. Imagine lines of light pulsing between those components, showing you the flow of data happening in real time.
Wait, so if I'm looking at like my web server and someone submits a form on my website,
Yeah,
I could see that data like travel to my database.
exactly. And not only can you see that data flow, but like each of those data packets, each operation is represented by a 3D block. And it's color-coded to show its performance.
Oh, cool.
Green means everything's running smoothly.
Okay.
Blue shows you processing.
Uh-huh.
Orange signals like a warning. And red, well, red means you might want to grab a virtual fire extinguisher.
Okay, that's really cool. So I'm not just passively observing here. I'm getting real-time feedback on the health of my application just by looking around. No more trying to figure out those cryptic charts and graphs.
Exactly, yeah. And because you're seeing things spatially, you instantly understand like complex relationships. That would take you hours to untangle from traditional monitoring tools. Imagine you're trying to track down a performance bottleneck in like a microservices architecture. With a traditional APM, you'd be jumping between like tons of different dashboards. But in immersive APM, you just see that whole flow in a single view. That bottleneck might literally stick out like a sore thumb.
So it's not just the like wow factor of VR.
Right.
It's about using our spatial reasoning to make sense of these complex systems. It's almost like turning software development into a video game.
There's definitely some gamification there, makes it way more engaging. But it's also really powerful for like practical tasks too. Let's say you spot a cluster of those red error blocks. You can walk right up to them, reach out with your virtual hand, and get detailed information about what's going wrong. Error messages, stack traces. You might even see the relevant code snippets.
Hold on. So I can go from like this bird's eye view of my entire application down to the tiny details of a specific error. That's crazy.
It's all about making the invisible visible, empowering developers to understand and troubleshoot their applications in a way that just wasn't possible before.
So you mentioned that Immersive APM relies on all that data collected by OpenTelemetry. What if I'm not using Aspire to build my application? Can I still benefit from this immersive experience?
Oh, absolutely. Aspire provides that like out-of-the-box integration with OpenTelemetry, but you can use Immersive APM with any application that's instrumented with OpenTelemetry. Doesn't matter what programming language or framework you're using.
So whether I'm building a .NET microservice with Aspire, Python web app, or even like a mobile app, I can still step inside and see it running in VR.
Yeah, that's the power of open standards like OpenTelemetry. They create this common language for observability, one that like goes beyond specific technologies. So as long as your application is emitting telemetry data in that OpenTelemetry format, Immersive APM can create that immersive visualization.
This is making me rethink how I think about application monitoring. It's not just about collecting data anymore. It's about experiencing it.
And that experience is about way more than just troubleshooting. It's about collaboration, knowledge sharing, even like education. Imagine you're onboarding a new developer. Instead of giving them, a bunch of documentation, you just drop them into that VR world of the application.
Now that is how you make onboarding fun. I could just see them like exploring the application, tracing data flows, learning by actually doing.
Exactly. It's a whole new way to learn and understand these complex systems. And think about like beyond onboarding, the possibilities for, presentations and demos. Imagine showing your software to potential clients and letting them walk through its inner workings in VR.
Talk about a memorable sales pitch, right? Want to
Sure.
see how your data flows through our secure system? Put on this headset.
It's a game changer, not just for developers, but for anyone who needs to understand and communicate complex technical concepts.
Okay, I'm sold on the immersive part. But how does immersive APM actually compare to the, traditional APM tools out there?
Yeah.
Is this just a cool visualization on top of the same old stuff, or is there something more to it?
Yeah, it's definitely more.
More, okay.
It's about augmenting them. right?
Right.
Immersive APM doesn't like throw away those conventional tools.
Right. Right.
It gives you a whole new dimension of insight. You still have access to all the metrics and logs, alerts you'd expect
Right.
from a traditional APM, but now you can also step into that immersive world whenever you need a deeper understanding.
So I can like switch back and forth between that 3D world and my normal dashboards.
Exactly. And a lot of times seeing things visually in that immersive environment, it can give you clues about where to look closer, in those traditional metrics.
Yeah.
It's about using the right tool for the job.
Right. Right. Makes sense. I'm curious about the real-time aspect. We talked about like seeing data flow in real time, but can I actually like interact with my application in this virtual world?
So it's not about directly controlling the application.
Okay.
It's more about manipulating the visualization to get insights.
Okay.
You can pause the action, rewind and see how an event unfolded, zoom in on specific components, filter the data to focus on certain types of operations. You have a lot of control over how you experience that data.
So it's almost like having a DVR for my application's behavior. I
Yeah.
can like replay events, fast forward, slow down, all that. That's incredibly powerful for like debugging and understanding those complex interactions.
Yeah. And don't forget about like the collaboration.
Oh, right, right.
Imagine working on a tricky performance issue with your team.
Yeah.
And instead of like trying to describe what you're seeing in a chat or an email,
Right.
you can bring everyone into that VR world.
Okay.
Point to the problem and say, see that cluster of red blocks over there? That's where we need to focus.
It's like a virtual war room almost,
Uh-huh.
where everyone can see the battlefield and come up with a plan together.
Exactly. It's like a whole new level of teamwork and knowledge sharing, all thanks to that shared immersive experience.
I'm really starting to see the potential here. This feels like more than a new tool.
Yeah.
It's almost like a shift in how we think about observability, maybe even software development itself.
I think you're right. Immersive APM is definitely at the forefront of this shift towards more intuitive, engaging, and, ultimately more human-centered ways of interacting with software. It's not just about efficiency.
Yeah.
It's about using our natural abilities to see patterns, make connections, and tell stories.
Right. And that's what makes it so exciting. It's not just about crunching numbers, staring at charts. It's about using our imagination and our senses to explore the world of our applications in a whole new way.
It's about bringing the joy of discovery back into software development.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Well, this has been an amazing deep dive. We went from like the very foundations with Aspire and OpenTelemetry to actually exploring this mind-blowing world of immersive APM. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty inspired right now.
Me too. It's awesome to see how technology can change how we think and how we work.
Yeah.
And immersive APM is a perfect example of that.
So for all of you listening out there who are ready to learn more, where should they go?
Best place to start is the Immersive Fusion website. ImmersiveFusion.com. They've got a ton of information. Videos, demos, there's even a free trial, so you can experience the magic of immersive APM for yourself.
Awesome. We'll be sure to drop a link in the show notes. And as we wrap up here, I want to leave our listeners with this. Now that you've had a chance to see the possibilities of immersive APM, how could it change your approach to software development? What new insights, what new perspectives might come up? It's definitely something to think about. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.